So as our new Commerce Secretary, congratulations. What's your first order of business?
Thank you. Getting Americans back to work. You know, as governor, which I was until yesterday, I saw firsthand every day the struggle of everyone really in America, small businesses. You have small businesses that have been in families for generations that are closing. You know, workers are struggling, women are struggling enormously, have fallen out of the workforce in record numbers. So certainly my first order of business is doing everything I can to get Americans back to work.
Then when you see governors like Governor Abbott in Texas saying, enough is enough, let's reopen 100%, do you think it's premature? You've just had to balance the two in Rhode Island.
I did. And while I would never want to second guess another governor and what's going on in Texas, I think it is a bit premature. I mean, President Biden has said mask wearing for the first 100 days. The Biden administration is doing a terrific job getting everybody vaccinated. I think we're not quite there yet. Certainly, we need to be relaxing continually with the regulations. But to flip the switch and say, back to where we were immediately, I'm not sure that's the right thing.
As Commerce Secretary, you'll be looking at broadband around this country. Something we learned this year is that so many parts of our country, specifically rural areas, we had kids who couldn't even remote learn because they didn't have access to the internet. Is there a fast fix for that?
So first of all, we need to be bold. We need to be bold. Americans learned, and I saw firsthand as governor, how this plays into the issue of equity. If you don't have access to broadband, you can't go to school effectively, virtually. You can't run your small business. You can't go to work. You know, imagine yourself trying to do your job without access to broadband. It's a huge digital divide in America, and it is divided along racial lines, income lines, and geography. So we need to go fast, and we need to go big. And this is an area where, in commerce, we can lead. We're well positioned to take the lead on broadband, specifically getting money out to rural communities, tribal communities, so that everybody's connected.
Let's talk about skills and jobs then. Even before COVID, we had full employment, yet we had millions of Americans who weren't making a living wage. COVID has exposed now millions of Americans that don't have jobs, and when and if they do go back to work, it's going to be back to jobs that simply don't pay enough. Is this an opportunity for a real national jobs reskills training program? You did it in Rhode Island with Real Jobs Rhode Island.
We cannot just turn the clock back and go back to a year or two ago. Almost all good jobs being created in America now require some degree or credential past high school. That means it's on us to make sure that every American has those skills so they have a chance to compete, a chance of an opportunity. We will do better, but business has to come to the table. And I learned that as governor. You can't train and pray. Train and pray folks get a job. Business has to come to the table, help us create the training programs, and then commit to hiring.
Why should we trust business? Right now, many Americans don't trust big business, right? You have big corporations that offered hazard pay to their factory workers, to their checkout people for 2 months. COVID didn't last for 2 months. It's lasting a year. Those massive companies that are making billions of dollars, which has led so many to say they don't trust business in America.
Yeah, with good reason in many cases. You know, with good reason. When you highlighted that I have a track record of working with business, that's true, but I'm also a truth teller. And in many instances, it's time for business to step up more. We are in a national economic crisis, a healthcare crisis, a climate crisis, an equity crisis. Business has to step up. It's in their long-term interests, and I think we have to hold them accountable.
Should the American Rescue Plan be more targeted? Some Democratic members of the Senate are saying get the money to those who need it most. Earlier today, we heard from the White House they want to make those $1,400 checks more targeted. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I saw the White House is going to compromise, and I certainly think that is the right thing to do. This president knows how to get things done. And so if compromising gets it across the finish line, then that's what he will do. I would say this. It's not just unemployed people who are struggling. There's a lot of middle-class people who are struggling, a lot of people with jobs who are struggling. They've had to pay more for childcare, more for education while schools have been out, more for health care, more for broadband. It's brutal out there. I mean, out on Main Street, USA, people are struggling, even folks with jobs. So I support the American Rescue Plan because it recognizes the magnitude of people's struggle.
Former President Trump got a lot of credit from a headline basis for taking on China. But go beneath the headline, we didn't win any trade war. How are you going to address China?
First, we have to be honest, which is to say China's behavior is anti-competitive, coercive. Their human rights abuses are horrific, and they need to be held to account for that. So unlike President Trump's approach of, tweeting out a policy, President Biden's been very clear. We're going to be tough on China in a whole of government response. As it relates to my job, I think that the entities list is a powerful tool. Chinese telecommunications companies their behavior is a threat to American economic and national security. We're going to use the entities list to its full effect. Tariffs, countervailing duties, they can't just dump excessive amounts of cheap steel and aluminum into America. So there's no one thing. I would say there's no one tool in our toolbox, but we have to recognize the magnitude that China's behavior, the threat that it poses. The last thing I'll say, we need to invest in America. So everything I just said is defense. How about offense? How about investing in research and development in America, having an R&D strategy, making semiconductors in America, having the most trained workforce in the world in America? Let's lean into it on our forefront, and I think that's just as important as the defense.
But to clarify two things that you said, you mentioned dumping cheap steel and aluminum. Former President Trump then put tariffs on those things being imported into this country. Do you plan to keep those tariffs in place?
So let me say those tariffs have been effective. The data show that those tariffs have been effective. And I think what President Biden has said is we're going to have a whole of government review of all of these policies and decide what it makes sense to maintain.
And from a national security perspective, do you plan to target specific businesses like a TikTok or a Huawei, which again, President Trump got a lot of credit, talked a big game, but if you actually look at what he did, it really wasn't anything.
Yeah, yes. Like you mentioned Huawei, ZTE, there are Chinese telecommunication companies. If you look at their behavior, they deserve to be targeted. And if it's necessary, then that's what we'll do.
This is your first day, your first hour on this job.
Truly.
What do you want the American people to know about you?
I believe in America. I believe we can rebuild this economy. I believe we're going to rebuild it from the bottom up. And it's an exciting opportunity to rebuild with bringing everyone along. Finally, we're talking about racial inequity, women struggling, small businesses getting hurt, minority-owned businesses being hurt, broadband and the digital divide. It's exciting, and now we got to make it happen. I'm a doer. That's what people should know about me, and I'm excited to do for the American people.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.